Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this video in one go, so if I stumble over my words moving forwards, apologies about that. And also, if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well, if there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it cannot be helped, and hopefully it is not too much of an issue for you. This is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel. This is the third video I'm filming in 3 days. I'm really on a roll at the moment, and there will be more videos to come. I'll briefly mention those now. There's going to be a video fairly soon where I go through acts I'd like to see represent the UK at some point in the near future. I've already asked for suggestions online on my Twitter page. I've already had a few, so I'll be discussing those as best I can in a future video, but I want to really prepare that one, so it's going to be a little while yet before it surfaces online. And I'm also going to be making another couple of videos potentially in my sporadic series where I take a look back at older editions of the contest. I should also take this opportunity to say links in the description as always to my other social media pages. Check them out if you so wish, including the relatively new Instagram page that I am co-running with a friend of mine, rajc.esc. In today's video, I'm not sure this is going to be particularly interesting for many of you. I don't know. Feel free to leave comments though, it's much appreciated. I'm going to be taking a look at the rules of the 1998 contest, and that of course was the last time the UK hosted Eurovision in Birmingham. Now every year of course the European Broadcasting Union releases the rules of the competition, and a lot of the rule books, if you want to call them that, are online, and I've got the 1998 one in front of me. It's actually a document I've had saved on my computer for a long time, and I'm just going to go through it now, and I don't really know if I'm going to make too many comments on it, but I suppose it's just interesting to see how the competition has evolved somewhat, you know, over the past 2 decades or so. So, with that being said, let me get straight into this. I don't know if I've filmed a video looking back at the 1998 contest. If I have, check it out. If I haven't, I'll be filming that very soon. I think I got up to 1999. I think I'm going backwards in time now, and I definitely think I filmed one about Jerusalem 99, but I'm not sure I did about Birmingham 98. Anyway, that series will be returning before too long. Anyway, it says here, rules of the 43rd Eurovision Song Contest 1998. Of course, next year will be the 67th competition. It says here, under the auspices of the European Broadcasting Union and as part of the television programme exchanges known as Eurovision. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when they have athletics events on television, there's usually a sign that says Eurovision somewhere. We might even get it at the Commonwealth Games, because it's a very umbrella term. It says the EBU member organisations of Belgium, Croatia, Cyprus, Estonia, Finland, France, Macedonia, who were making their debut in Birmingham, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Israel, Malta, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey and the UK. 25 countries. I believe at the time it was the most ever in a grand final, or the joint most ever. Hereafter called the participants, have decided, under the conditions of the present rules, to take active part in the 43rd Eurovision Song Contest 1998. Now, of course, what's interesting here already is that Slovakia did compete in Birmingham, but they are not involved in Eurovision anymore and haven't been for a number of years, which is a great shame. And also, Macedonia under their former name, and Hungary were competing, and of course, they're not involved at the moment either. It says here as well, participants are free to withdraw up to the 10th of December 1997, after which date they shall be liable for their shares, even if they subsequently decide not to enter a song. However, if one country decides to withdraw later than that date, it could be replaced by the next country on the waiting list, if this is still compatible with the timing of the preparation for the contest. Now, I don't know when the cut-off point is for withdrawal anymore, but I think it's much later than December, because of course national finals occur sort of in the spring, you know, February, March time. So I think the deadline is sometime around then. I really don't know. I think it varies every year, and then we get the official list of participants announced by the EBU. And obviously back then, the system was sort of relegation promotion, if you will, based on the average amount of points over the course of the past couple of contests. So if a country did withdraw, it was just a case of inviting the next one on the list. Whereas now, if a country withdraws, it happens well in advance of the contest, and they're not replaced. Nobody else is asked if they'd like to be involved. Anyway, what else does it say here? The purpose of this contest is to stimulate the output of original songs of high quality in the field of popular music by encouraging competition among authors and composers through the international comparison of their works. Now, I've looked at the rules for many contests in the past, and certainly years ago, the rules did not change that much at all. So that particular quote there, I think, was involved for a very long time in the rule book. Only works, that's words and music, not published as sheet music or issued as or included in a commercial record, cassette, disc, film, videogram, etc., until after the national selection, but not before January the 1st, 1998, may be performed at the European final. After that point, these works may only be released commercially in the country they represent until after the final. So what that suggests, for example, is that Where Are You by Imani, the UK entry, couldn't be released outside of the UK until after Eurovision had actually taken place. That's the gist I'm getting there. After March the 15th, only the EBU may approve the commercial release of a compilation album to include all finalists. There was no compilation CD. In 1999 there was, I own it, but it was put together by an Israeli record company. The first time the EBU sort of sanctioned an official CD with all of the songs on was in 2000. And it says here the contest is mainly intended for broadcast on television by Eurovision members. Moving on, it's quite a long document, so I will gloss over certain points here. The selection by each participant, preferably by means of a national competition of the best possible song. The familiarising of the public with the songs in advance of the European final by the provision of recordings on videotape or film of all of the participants' entries, which must reach the producing organisation, so the BBC in this case, by the 23rd of March 1998, and which shall be transmitted from the producing organisation on the 7th of April 1998 for simultaneous recording by all participants. The public performance before a European audience of all songs presented by the participants during a live transmission of the European final, on the results of which shall be awarded the Grand Prix of the 1998 Eurovision Song Contest. The national method of selection shall be decided by each participant as it thinks fit. However, the works selected and the national method of selection must conform to the present rules, and all national competitions and selections must be completed by the 15th of March 1998. And I believe it's around the same date now, mid-March. Sweden's usually one of the last national finals. I think it is the last national final pretty much every Eurovision season. So it's still, even to this day, somewhere around the 15th of March. For 1998, the 25 participants shall be composed as follows. The member which presented the winning song in the previous year, that was the UK. The 17 members, other than the member above, which obtained the highest average of points over the preceding 5 years. That's the total of points divided by the number of times that the country has participated. Where such average is identical between 2 or 3 members, the total number of points scored in the most recent year in which the member participated shall be decisive. It's a very wordy document, this, my goodness. For the remaining places, the members which were not admitted in the previous year, but which have conformed with all other rules relating to participation, shall qualify. The principle underlying this system of rotation is that all candidates can take part in the final at least once in every 2 years. For 1999, the criteria for admission shall be available to all participants by the 9th of May 1998. In that respect, the countries willing to participate in 1999 should inform the permanent services in writing before April the 15th, 1998, and should broadcast the 1998 contest as passive participants. And I believe that's still a rule now. If you wish to compete the following year, you have to broadcast that year's show. Anyway, All participants shall provide, free of charge, for use by all other nations, video recordings or films of up to 3 minutes duration of their entries. The production shown on these recordings may be of any kind, chosen by the originating organisation, but the actual singers of the songs must be the same as those appearing at Eurovision. These recordings must reach the producing organisation by the 23rd of March 1998. All the entries, including that of the producing organisation itself, shall be transmitted by the latter on the 7th of April for recording by the other participants. Participants wishing to broadcast such recordings must broadcast all of them to the same duration, provided that they respect their national laws and regulations, blah, blah, blah. But they must present them in 2 or more separate programs, not in one single program. Now, what I'm getting from this is that way back in the day, there used to be preview shows regarding Eurovision, because the internet wasn't nearly as big as it is now, and certainly rehearsals weren't being splashed about online. So the way for the public to get to know the songs a little bit before the contest itself was through preview shows, and the BBC did this every year for a very long time. And there were a couple of shows where the music videos would be shown and people in a studio would analyse them. And I'm under the assumption that this was the same in every other participating country, but I could be wrong. The songs must be announced as entries for Eurovision, and in each case the names of the organisation and country entering the song must be given. Each participant shall be exclusively responsible for all expenses incurred for the production of its song and for the provision of the recording or film to be injected. The cost of distributing the recordings or films over the Eurovision network, blah blah blah, shall be shared in accordance with the existing rules. Now, it says here as well, telephone competition. What does it say here? I don't really know what this is all about. I think the idea is that more emphasis upon the promotion of the contest between the national selection and the grand final. To assist in this, participants may choose to participate in the origination, promotion and television broadcast of competitions around 30 seconds each with viewer entry through premium rate telephone lines. I don't really know if that occurred or not. Anyway, the songs must be sung in the language or one of the languages of the participating country, failing which the entry shall be disqualified. So the language rule was pretty much in place. Short quotations from another language are permitted on the following conditions: no longer than a single phrase, repeated a maximum of 3 times, so as not to dominate in the performance of the song. 6 performers on stage, that's still the rule, and you must be 16 on the day of the contest, that's still a rule. The performance of each song must not exceed 3 minutes, that still exists, although if you actually look at the studio cut of many Eurovision songs, they are slightly longer than 3 minutes. Blah 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 blah. Amplifying equipment shall not be allowed on stage. A comprehensive drum kit shall be provided by the BBC. Private drum kits shall not be allowed. I believe this is all still the case. I think delegations bring their own props, like the UK did this year for Sam Ryder, but actual musical equipment, I have a feeling, is provided by the broadcaster in question. I could be wrong. The use of backing tracks is permitted on condition that they are instrumental only. Of course, now, pre-recording backing vocals are allowed. The score for each song may make use of part or all of the live orchestra. Of course, this was the last contest with an orchestra, which was off to one side, and I think only 2 or 3 countries, I could be wrong again, I hold my hands up, but I think only a few countries didn't actually use the orchestra, but a totally pre-recorded backing track. An orchestra composed of a specified number of musicians shall be placed at the disposal of the conductors and performers by the BBC. The detailed composition shall be forwarded through to the EBU Permanent Services in Geneva to all participants by the 20th of February for suggestions concerning the addition of new instruments or the increase in certain instruments. Such suggestions should reach the producing organisation by the 16th of March. And then there's a few more waffly bits that aren't really that interesting. The conductor appointed by the BBC in this case shall be in charge of the preliminary run-throughs and rehearsals of the songs submitted. It is quite remarkable when you think about it. That's a lot of songs for an orchestra to learn and perform on the night, live on TV. It's a big deal. It says here, the score of the song must be made available to the BBC by the 23rd of March. The text of the song in its original language, together with English and French translations, which are free but correspond to the original text, for duplication and distribution to the commentators. From the 3rd of May to the 9th of May, the performer or performers designated by it to present the song and its own conductor if desired. The producing organisation, the BBC in this case, shall draw up a staggered timetable for rehearsals so as to make the stay of foreign conductors and performers in its country as short as possible. It then says here the order of presentation for the songs. So the running order, which was randomised way back in the day, of course, shall be determined by a drawing of lots among the participants on November the 13th, 1997, so well in advance of the contest actually taking place. Of course, now the running order is determined by the producers of any given contest, any given year, and we don't get that, the semi-final running orders that is, until sort of the end of March, early April. And then, of course, the running order for the final is determined, the day before it actually takes place. Whereas in 1998, it was months in advance. Of course, back in 1998 as well, televoting was just starting to become a regular thing. The countries using televoting must respect the following. Countries which have not successfully conducted a national telepoll within the last 3 years must seek advice from the permanent services. Countries wishing to use televoting must be able to accommodate 24 different telephone numbers, with the numbers ending with digits between 1 and 25. For all countries, a standby jury of 8 people must be in place. The broadcaster must work closely with the main national telephone network operator, which in the UK is BT, I believe, and receive assurances from them that the televote will not cause disruption to emergency services calls. To minimise the risk of national lobby groups voting for their own song in other countries, and I assume this is still in place, telephone numbers must be used that cannot be dialed across frontiers. Each home could not vote more than 3 times, whereas now I believe you can vote up to 20 times for your favourite song, I think. So that's changed quite a bit over the years. The broadcaster shall run at least one spot check during the voting window to check that the ratio of calls made during the first 3 minutes is the same as the ratio delivered by the overall result. This checks that lobby groups are not distorting the result. Of course, now, every year it seems, we have controversy with jury members trying to manipulate the results, as we saw in the second semi-final in Turin. Certainly, you've still got issues with voting, and they will remain in place for years to come. But it's interesting about this lobby groups thing in the 1998 rules. If there are any changes in the order of the top 10 position, then the result given by the initial surge of calls must be taken, and not the final result. The televote must be capable of being run and completed within 5 minutes. I believe the voting's open for a lot longer now, isn't it? 15 minutes? I think it varies every year, it seems to, including running the spot check at 3 minutes. The lines provided to answer calls must be equally accessible to any of the 24 numbers being rung. The telephone network must ensure that callers from all around the country concerned stand an equal chance of getting their call through. The broadcaster must be sure that they can announce the result within the tight 6-minute time window. This element should be rehearsed, blah, blah, blah. The start and cut-off time for counting the votes must be at the exact same moment in every country. The cost of voting or the rate at which calls are charged must be the same for everyone. Blah, blah, blah. And then it says about the jury, in exceptional circumstances that televoting is not possible, the backup jury steps in. The participant, whatever country it is, shall appoint a national jury of 16 but 8 in the backup jury members. The names of the members of the national juries must not be disclosed until the day of the final at the earliest. That is not before the 9th of May. And I believe jury members, I think they're announced in advance now. Shortly before the final, we find out the jury members' names. But I think it used to be on the day of the contest. Again, I can't remember exactly, but I think that's now the situation. Each national jury must be composed 50% of persons able to demonstrate their interest in popular music and representative of the public of their country, and 50% of professionals. There should be an equal number of men and women, with 8 jurors, 4 in the backup jury, aged below 30, and 8 above 30. The 8 professional jurors can be composers, authors, blah blah blah, in the light music sphere, or radio and TV producers, but only 2 of them may be connected with a record company or music publisher. It's very specific. I'm not sure it's this specific these days, you know. Members of staff or participants, anybody involved with those organisations in the field of light entertainment must be excluded, blah blah blah. Each member of each national jury shall award from 1 to 10 votes to each song. Abstentions are not allowed. The members will register their votes on secret voting papers, which shall be collected by the secretary. Each jury shall have a chairperson, that's still the same now. He or she shall be assisted by a secretary, who shall act as spokesperson and be responsible for communicating the final points clearly and distinctly in English or in French during the show. Each participant undertakes to cut off reception of the programme's sound and vision while the points of other national juries are being announced until after its own jury's final points have been transmitted. Only the secretary to the jury may listen to the international programme sound on headphones in order to hear when the presenter calls on his or her country to allocate its points. All very secretive, it seems. Each national jury must sit in its own country in the presence of a notary or similar official, whose task shall be to ensure respect of the above rules. And the completed ballot papers will be sent to Geneva, where they shall be filed in the archives, where I assume they still are, ladies and gentlemen. After 15 minutes of voting, the last 5 organisations in the voting procedure shall deliver their votes off-air in order to facilitate the verification of the final result. Very, very interesting. I mean, I've always wondered how exactly jury members cast their votes, because of course they vote on the Friday and they are voting on the rehearsal show pretty much. So are they sitting in the same room as each other? Are they really familiar with the songs anyway? Have they listened to the CD, you know? Have they been chatting about the songs with each other before they go in and vote? I really wonder how exactly it all pans out. I assume we'll never know, but it's interesting to think about. Each participant shall make a recording of the final dress rehearsal, a rehearsal of the voting procedure. The national jury, real or backup, shall assemble for the final dress rehearsal on the 9th of May, the actual day of the contest. The juries, real or backup, shall receive the sound and vision of the final dress rehearsal. They shall then hold a rehearsal of the voting. Then it says the final vote. There shall be an interval of at least 3 minutes after the performance of the last song. In these 3 minutes, a secretary in charge of each country shall add up the number of votes, and then they allocate 12, 10, so on. For countries using a jury, should there be a tie, the order of the tying songs shall be ascertained by a show of hands by the 16 jury members. If 2 or more songs tie for the same place, and if there is still a tie after the show of hands, the youngest member of the jury has the final say. So there you go. Then it talks about song disqualification, which is still pretty much the same now. The spokespersons are not necessarily called in the same order in which the songs were presented, but I believe they were for many years. They just went through the running order of the songs. So Croatia opened in 1998, and I believe that was the first country to announce their points, and Macedonia were last. What else does it say here? Should there be a tie for first place, the Grand Prix shall be awarded to the song that has obtained the highest score of 12 points most often. I believe that is still the case now. But there is a rule, isn't there, where it's the country that has received the most points from the most other countries. I do still think it's based on which country has received the highest mark the most often. I really don't know. I'm not a hardcore fan. I really ought to know, but anyway. Should two or more songs still tie for first place, even after such calculations, they'll share the Grand Prix. The member organisation, having presented the winning song, shall produce Eurovision the following year. Blah, blah, blah. And then it talks about the process of selecting a host city, pretty much, for the following year. It begins in June, and a decision is made by the end of September. Then it talks about financing. And it says here, all participants shall pay to the EBU a participation fee. Countries that haven't paid by August the 31st following the contest could be excluded the following year. So based on that, you can participate, or you could have participated, without paying until after the contest actually took place. Members which were not admitted in 1998 but want to participate in 1999 are obliged to pay a participation fee corresponding to 50% of what their fee would have been had they participated in 1998. And then it talks about expenses, the broadcast of the show. It has to have the Eurovision logo before the broadcast. It says here as well, and this is interesting, you can, whichever broadcaster it is, can actually broadcast the show again, wholly or in part, an unlimited number of times within 30 days of the final actually taking place. I wonder if any country's done this. Broadcast Eurovision twice. So, for example, I don't think the BBC have ever done it, where they broadcast the contest and then a couple of days later they show it again on TV. I'm not sure that's ever happened, and I don't know if that's still a rule. Maybe it is. Blah, blah, blah. Commercial break. Blah, blah, blah. The BBC don't have commercial breaks, but I know other broadcasters do. Commercial exploitation. Sponsors. Blah, 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 blah. Local sponsorship. The scoreboard. Blah, blah, blah. The scoreboard again. On-screen identification of the provider of the scoreboard, which flashes up ever so briefly every now and then. Postcards. Sponsorship again. I don't think this really matters. Blah, blah, blah. And then the last page here is just certain dates. So, performers must be available for rehearsal from the 3rd to the 9th of May. The final composition of the orchestra must be decided by the 18th of March. Selected songs can be published as sheet music from January the 1st. National finals and selections must be finished by the 15th of March. The running order is on the 13th of November 1997. So there you go. It's been a big rambling video, this, and certainly if you've stuck with me, many thanks. But I thought it might be of passing interest to some of you, just to see what it was like the last time the contest was staged in the UK and how things are different now. And I'm sure once the 2023 rules are published online, which I'm sure they will be at some point, I might go through those as well and sort of brush up on my knowledge and then really compare both sets of rules. Like I said, we don't have an orchestra anymore. It's not just the final, it's the semi-finals. Back then, there was no official CD or DVD. There is now. And, yeah, it's just very, very interesting to take a look. And the language rule as well, that doesn't really exist anymore, does it? So, yeah, quite interesting to go through it. I haven't actually looked at that for a very long time. I do have rules for many other contests as well. 2004 is here. 1956. Ah, yes, indeed, the very first contest. Maybe it's worth going through that, although I'd have to translate all of it from French. But there we go. Let me know your thoughts on this video, if it was of any interest to you. It's always interesting to take a look at some more I suppose, slightly behind the scenes things to do with Eurovision. And I'll be back at some point soon with more Eurovision related content. As I'm recording this video right now, it's being confirmed that Glasgow and Sheffield, yes, will be bidding to stage Eurovision 2023, and I think Nottingham are planning to do so as well. I've been to Nottingham. It's not a bad place, but I don't think they stand much of a chance myself. Bristol's another one. Who are planning to bid officially within the next couple of days. It's going to be a very interesting bidding process, let me tell you. Pretty much every city of note in the UK wants to do this, it seems. Enthusiasm is high, and I've already been on Twitter trying to get Northamptonshire, the county I live in, which is pretty much in the middle of England, involved, but you know full well that's not happening anytime soon. Anyway, thank you so much for the support lately. More videos will be coming soon. As I said earlier, check out the links in the description to my other social media pages if you so wish. Like, share, subscribe, all appreciated. Thank you so very much, and I'll be back soon with more content. Until then, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and bye for now.